Here in my garage, just purchased this Gate Guardian deck, max rarity of course. It's really fun to go X3 drop at locals with that. But you know what I love more than incredibly expensive cardboard? Commons. And that's why I just had these 276,000 BCW storage boxes installed to store 1.897 million new commons. You see, the king of games, Yugi Moto, once said, "The Pirate King storage boxes have no pathetic cards." Maybe you've seen my TED Talk about how I build a deck a day, and I don't tell you I build a deck a day because I'm bragging about it. I tell you I build a deck a day just because it's good for building that good foundation. See, it wasn't long ago when I was out trying to build everything max rarity, and I was building decks once a month. But then I met a mentor, and you know what? I think he just pulled up right now. He's right there. Hey, how's it going?
I've heard enough of your nonsense. Senile old fool.
Dude, I'm only 28, man. What's up, crew? Welcome back to Libertalia Game Supply. Today we have a strange one, really just for fun, entirely just for fun. It's built just to summon the Dark Guardian as efficiently as possible while not being a completely trash deck. So what you're looking at right here is Dark Guardian, Gate Guardian, Snake Eyes, Sinful Spoil, Turbo, baby. And it is quite a good time. It works shockingly well. Like most of the time, you're going to be able to summon either Combined or Dark Guardian. Turn one, pretty easy. Now, unfortunately, neither of those cards are particularly good. Combined is quite a bit better than Dark Guardian, but not good enough to be like a main central piece of a combo. I guess it gets you some negates, but you know, you get that nostalgia factor. You got to give some points for that too. So let's get into the list here. Double Dark Guardian. This is coming out in Phantom Nightmare, I do believe, and it is probably not going to be a very high rarity, which is true for all of this, except for, as you are already aware, the wanted Sinful Spoil stuff. Now, Dark Guardian is always treated as a Gate Guardian card. However, that is fairly irrelevant because there are almost no effects that interact with it directly in the Gate Guardian archetype. And we'll give it a read here. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summon with Dark Element, that's this new spell down here, or from your hand or graveyard by shuffling one Sangha, one Kazajan, and one Suijin into the deck from among your face-up cards on the field in your hand, graveyard, and or face-up banish zone. So if you have the 3 Gate Guardian pieces anywhere not in the deck and face-up, you can summon this thing from the hand or the graveyard. So that is actually a pretty good summon effect. It's pretty cool, but the rest of the effect on this thing leaves a little bit to be desired here. So cannot be destroyed by battle. This card, special summon with Dark Element, is unaffected by other monster effects and your opponent's activated spell cards. So I suppose, would that mean that it's a Nibiru proof? It can't be Raigeki'd, so some silver linings, but it doesn't do anything. It just can't be done to by anything. So, you know, but it's, you know, you gotta summon this bad boy. He's got that cool little summon animation, you know? No, the rest of the deck is fairly straightforward, I feel. And the idea of the deck came from getting absolutely torched by a Gate Guardian Snake Eyes deck that I don't think is built quite as well as the masterpiece you're looking at here, but it did do enough to give me an idea on how to build this thing. So we got triple Labyrinth Heavy Tank. It's your normal summon, essentially, because it doesn't require a tribute. And then it allows you to set one of your Gate Guardian pieces in your back row. And then when you do that, if you control one of your Labyrinth Wall cards, so in this instance, just the field spell here, unless you wanted to play the original Labyrinth Wall, which do not do that, it can then pop a card on your opponent's side of the field, a monster specifically. We've then got 3 copies of Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth. This is essentially a terraforming for just this Labyrinth Wall shadow. You discard it to search it, and then while it's in the graveyard, while you control this card and your opponent battles you, you can banish from the graveyard and then destroy that monster. So it doesn't have to be attacking anything in particular. It just, if something attacks, you can banish it, destroy that card. So that's actually a pretty nice effect there. We've got our standard Snake Eyes lineup, the 1 Ash, the 1 Populous, and the 1 Flameburst Dragon. This is basically just meant to plus off of the Diabell Star engine with the double Diabell Star, the 3 Sinful Spoils, the 1 original Sinful Spoils, and the 1 Snake Eye Dramatic Chase. All of this stuff is searchable as well as these and these. This one is summonable off of this guy's effect. So with self-contained, really efficient, which is probably why it's all as expensive as it is. I think we're all aware now. We've got one of each of our Gate Guardian pieces because you don't really need more than that, because unless they get banished face down, you can just use them from being banished or whatever. So, you know, very unlikely that you end up losing this little aspect of the deck. We'll skip over the Witch. I think everybody's pretty aware of how that works right now. We got triple Magician, Soul, and 1 Illusion of Chaos. Now, this was something that I was curious about in the initial list that I had looked at in that previous video, as it was set up this way. I was wondering, like, why would that be? Well, the reason it would be is because this can summon itself off of just sending a level 6 or higher spellcaster to the graveyard from your deck, and you don't need more copies of this to brick on unless you really were trying to lean into summoning like Chaos Angel or something. And the reason for that is because Dark Witch is a spellcaster as well as Kazajan, and Kazajan is actually a plus in the graveyard because you can shuffle it back to summon the Dark Guardian in this deck. So the Magician Soul is definitely better. You want to see it more often. Now, you could make the argument that you would see it the same amount playing 2 and 2, which you're probably right, but if you were to open both of these cards, this is now completely terrible and useless. So I think the ratio does actually make a little bit of sense. So basically what you'll be doing here in the combos that I'll show you at the end of the list, you're going to summon your Magician Soul. If you opened your Snake Eyes Diabellstar stuff, you would be able to get draws or just leave your back row set up for your Flamber's Dragon, and then you would be able to make your Chaos Angel pretty easy because you're going to summon the Thunder and Wind pretty much every turn if you can, just to try to get your big boss monsters out. This is a level 9 light monster. This is a level 1 dark monster. And I think you got the math covered from there. For the spells, we got triple Dark Element. This card's absolutely nuts, actually. If this was for any other archetype, it would be ridiculous, but it's for Gate Guardians, so is not good. If you have a Gate Guardian monster in your graveyard, pay half your life points, special summon 1 level 11 or higher Gate Guardian monster from your hand, deck, or extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can banish this card from your graveyard, add one of your Sanga, Kazajan, or Suijin that is banished or in your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect with Dark Element once per turn. Now, that's ridiculous. If you put this in your graveyard, which is what you're going to do, well, I guess if you put any of them in your graveyard, but this specifically because it searches the Dark Element, so you would summon this, search this, put this in the graveyard in some fashion. Either you're going to make the Chaos Angel or you're going to link it into most likely IP, unless you're going second. Maybe you make something else. You're then going to use your Dark Element, and you have a free summon at the cost of half your life points, which is essentially free, of a Dark Guardian or a Gate Guardians combined. Now, this one's effect is much better. This one's effect is, well, you already heard what it is. It's okay, but it's the reason that we built the deck, so that's the one I've been summoning while playing around with this build. Now, that effect at the end is kind of shit if you use it to summon the Dark Guardian, but if you draw the Dark Guardian, this effect at the end is actually really cool because it then becomes very easy to summon this, use that effect to search the Suijin out of your deck, and then shuffle them all back for the Dark Guardian on the field too. So then you would be able to end the board with the Dark Guardian and the combined, and I'll show you that in a little combo at the end of the list here. Then we got our field spell. It gives anything that is level 4 or lower summoning sickness, so not particularly useful, but I suppose it could come up. Why we're playing it is because it does the same thing Labyrinth Heavy Tank does. Once per turn, you can set one of your Gate Guardian pieces to your back row, making them usable for you fusion summons. And then at the start of your opponent's battle phase, you can pop a monster your opponent controls with 1600 attack or less. Also, once again, probably not super relevant, but I suppose it could come up. We've then got a secondary search target for our Wind and Thunder, just to get the plus off of that, because we got to summon it anyway. The 1 double attack Wind and Thunder. If you control a Gate Guardian monster, target a card on the field, destroy it during your main phase, banish this card from the graveyard, add one of your Gate Guardian pieces back to your hand. So same little bit of ending text that a lot of these cards have. It's just a quick play removal card. It's decent enough. The 1 Terraforming for the Labyrinth Wall Shadow. The 1 Foolish Burial, because having these in your graveyard is usually not a bad thing. The 1 Called By, because hand traps will mess us up. The 3 copies of Wanted, because you need it for the engine. The 1 of the original Sinful Spoils, and the 1 Dramatic Chase. They're searchable and they plus pretty hard in this deck. The 1 Bonfire to search your Ash if you need to. Triple Upstart, because we can now. Let's be honest, that's the only reason it's in here, and it makes it a 37 card deck. And when we're talking about this monstrosity, you need as good odds as possible to open up stuff that doesn't suck. And then our 1 Prey of the Jiraigumo as our tertiary search target for the Wind and Thunder. This is not a super good card, however, it is unbelievably flavorful, and so we have to play that. You set it in the back row, and then if your opponent summons something in the same column it's in, activate it, it summons itself in that column, and then kills that monster, just like in the anime, man.
Fend them off, Max Raider!
and it's just too good to pass up on, so it's in there. For the extra deck here, we'll start on this side. Chaos Angel, really good card and fairly easy to summon in this deck. Relinquished Anima. If you have the Magician Soul with the rest of the combo, you're probably not summoning this, but if you don't have it and you want the steal or whatever, the old slurp, there you go. The one IPSP and I guess Nightmare Unicorn is kind of a part of that too. Just very nice removal engine on your opponent's turn. The one Dark, the one Selene, the one Appaloosa, and the one Access Code. The Selene actually fits in here pretty nice because of we play quite a few spellcasters that can hit the board really easy. Between these, it is so easy to put these back on the board with the Flamberge Dragon, so a couple of options there. And then for the big daddies, we've got one Wind and Water. They all have a similarly structured effect. They summon themselves by banishing the cards you control that are listed on them, so obviously Kazajan and Suijin here. If they're in the back row, you can just banish them and summon this guy, and so on and so on. It's the same for all of them. Also, if they were to die, they would let you summon one of the materials that you would have used to summon it, so can summon a Kazajan or Suijin that is banished, and so on and so on, except this one's a level 11 or lower from deck or extra deck, so it can summon your extra deck guys when it gets removed, or if you wanted a main deck like the original Gate Guardian and get real silly with it, it could summon that too. And then they all have their own unique effects. So this one, once per chain, can negate the activation of an opponent's spell or trap card on the field. This one, once per chain, can target an opponent's monster on the field and make its attack 0 until the end of the turn. This one can search a spell or trap that lists Sangha, Kazajan, and Suijin on it. And this one does technically have 3 negates. However, it's only 3 negates that target a card you control, which is fairly easily played around at the current moment, I would say. And so while it does have 3 negates, they aren't the most useful, and so it is what it is. These, I was just trying to figure out ways to try to make the deck more consistent. Neither of these will do that. This burns your normal summon. It can technically search the Dark Guardian, which is what I was looking for, but it does a really bad job of it. It's just the least garbage of the ones that I could find that do search this card. Not worth playing, don't do it. And then the Fusion Deployment, obviously a fairly common card in fusion-based decks, can search your Gate Guardian pieces, which is usually not particularly useful. So unless you have the Dark Guardian, having these in your hand doesn't really do much for you. It's actually kind of bad because you need to be able to put them in your back row, and if you're putting them in your back row from your hand, you're essentially losing a slot in your hand for something better, so this just wasn't really worth playing. Now I'll show you a couple combos here. I ended up putting a test hand in here because this deck doesn't really do like one card combos. If you haven't guessed, it's not that kind of deal. But let's check these out real quick. All right, so for this 3-card combo here, we're gonna end off with both the Dark Guardian and the Gate Guardians combined. Now, I understand that this is not a particularly likely hand to open, but opening these two, or 2 cards that can set you up for the Dark Guardian summon, is not super unlikely. It's a lot more reasonable. So if you just happen to open the Dark Guardian also, you can put them both on board, and so I thought that was kind of cool. Just making that note because this combo still works exactly the same to summon one or the other, but we're going to summon both. So first off, we got our Labyrinth Wall Shadow. We're going to activate its effect on the field to put one in the back row, so we need to have these 2 on the board somewhere in order to make the guy that searches the spells and traps. We're then going to normal summon without tributing our Heavy Tank. Activate our Heavy Tank, it does the same thing, puts one on the board. So now we have both on board that we need. We'll special summon for the Wind and Thunder Gate Guardian. This guy can now activate his effect to search a spell or trap. We'll grab our Dark Element. So now right here, this combo all works exactly the same way without the Dark Guardian. So if you wanted to summon the Dark Guardian, because why wouldn't you? You would just activate your Dark Element after sending this to the graveyard, and you can summon the Dark Guardian. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to set ourselves up to summon both of them. So we'll link these away for the IP. We'll activate our Dark Element because we now have a Gate Guardian in the graveyard. We're going to summon combined. Now, we have the 2 in the banish zone. The Dark Guardian needs the 3rd one just somewhere not in the deck to shuffle back into the deck, and the Dark Element will do just that for us. We'll banish it out of the graveyard. We'll search the sewage into our hand, and we will then use our Dark Guardian, shuffling all 3 back from the various locations that they are in, and we now have Gate Guardian combined and Dark Guardian. We also have the IP, but we would never sacrifice either of our boys for an IP summon of SP, so off the table. The Snake Eye stuff would give you the option for the additional body there. We're pretty much just going to sit on these. We got a negate, we got a nothing really. Protects itself from monster effects and spell cards. I suppose. But yeah, it can be done. Alright, now instead of showing you another combo, because let's be honest, there really aren't any because this deck is just a mess of a combination of different things. So your combo lines would just be generally what you could do with the little individual pieces. But if we put them all together, it can usually put together a decent board. So we'll go through that now. So this hand probably looks kind of like shit. It's not terrible. The upstart's a blank card. We've got the put one in the back row. We've got a terraforming, and this effect is not once per turn. If you activate a new one on top of it, we can put the other one in the back row. So we already have what we need to make our Wind and Thunder. We also have the Labyrinth Tank as our normal summon to put another one in the back row. So you have all three. So if you were able to search the Dark Guardian or draw into it or something, you already have that summon, as well as a summon of the combined. So you could put all three in the back row and then contact fusion them into the graveyard and then shuffle them back for the Dark Guardian. But we'll see if we can do some other stuff here, because we do have this bonfire to get us to our Snake Eyes engine a little bit. Let's start with just the terraforming. We'll get the spare one of these out of the deck. We'll thin as much as we can into the combo, and then we'll upstart. We'll start with this first one here. We'll activate. We'll put one. I suppose it doesn't matter because we have so many of these effects in hand right now. We'll activate the other one. We'll get another one. We'll grab the Sangha this time. We'll normal summon. No tribute there. Activate. So now if you had, like, if you draw into the Populace or something, you're going to want to keep your normal summon available. And so if you open this hand and you have the bonfire where you'll be able to search something or whatever, you probably wouldn't burn your normal summon on this. You'd save it for something else because you don't really need it, but in this instance, screw it. We'll activate our bonfire, and what you search here, I suppose if we search that, we get the special summon. It doesn't really matter all that much, does it? We already burned our normal. Yeah, we'll have to go with the Populace. It's the only one that gets us any sort of a plus and thins the deck a little bit more. So we'll activate that Populace to summon itself, throw it on board, and then we get that search for the spell. So now here we can either set up another card in the back row with the Dramatic Chase, though at that point you're really counting on this upstart to get you a Magician's Soul, because then you can set up like Chaos Angel plus one of your Gate Guardian dudes, or we could do the original Sinful Spoils and set up for Flameburst Dragon plus one of the Gate Guardian dudes. And I mean, I guess it depends on if you're going first or second, which one you would choose. We'll go with the going first option here with the Flameburst Dragon setup. I didn't mean to set that. We'll activate it. We'll send something. You don't need the Sewagin on the board, so we might as well just send it, because once again, we can't really count on the upstart being exactly what we need it to be. We'll use this, send the other, and we got our Flameburst out, and then we can use that Populace in the grave to put one in the back row. I guess which one it is, it kind of matters because you can get the additional search off of the Populace with the Flameburst Dragon summon. All right, so we still actually can thin a little bit more and still go all the way through the combo without using that upstart yet. So we'll do that. We'll make the Wind and Thunder. We're gonna search our Dark Element. Now we are about as thin as we get. So we'll upstart here and see what we got. Boom. All right, garbage, absolute trash. So we don't need it. So we're gonna link away now. We'll grab our IP 1, 2 because we need that Gate Guardian monster in the graveyard. We'll activate our element, and what you make here is kind of up to you. This one's definitely better, but this one is why we're here. So we're gonna summon that. Now you also have that Dark Element effect. That's usually better if you're able to get this in your hand in some fashion, but we'll do it anyway just to put one of our banished ones back into a place where we can access it, I suppose. It doesn't actually matter. A lot of these Gate Guardian effects can interact with them being in the banished zone or graveyard anyway, so we'll take the Kazajin. I guess it doesn't make a difference. And we could Flameburst here. What do we want? Really nothing that we have access to in the graveyard to put in the back row is worth a whole lot, so I guess we can just go ahead and put this guy in the back row, and you could use it with the IP to make the SP or the Nightmare Unicorn or something, or you can special summon the Populace to get the search for the spell, and it's just sitting back there for your following turn. You'll be able to put another one in the back row and then contact fuse or whatever you call that. I don't know what you would call that kind of summon. It just kind of reminds me of the contact fusions. But essentially what you have here is one not very good but super sick boss monster, the Flameburst setup for the search and whatever, and then the IP into the SP because SP is just nuts. Alright, and then just for the sake of it, because I've mentioned it a few times, we'll show the Magician's Soul for the Chaos Angel. It's probably one of your better pluses off of making the Wind and Thunder, just so that you can put it in the graveyard to use your Dark Element. So this time around we'll go with the Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth to get our field spell, because then you also have that little trap set up in the graveyard there. We'll activate our field spell, and it's going to be pretty much the same That's, you know, kind of the reason the extra deck is built the way that it is because you really only go into a couple of different monsters here. Same deal with the heavy tank. Get the other one, and we will now summon. Boom. 1, 2, and we're in. So now if you have your Snake Eyes engine in any way put together, you can usually get enough back row setup to use your Magician's Soul to get a draw to, and you know, what you draw into is kind of going to determine the turn after that. We're just not going to do that here. We'll activate it, send one. So now what you can send is a little bit irrelevant at this point because the Kazajan's already gone, but remember that is also a spellcaster, so you could send that to the graveyard if you opened the Dark Guardian, because then you can just shuffle it back to summon it with the other two. We'll leave these in deck because we still have all of the Sinful Spoil stuff and whatnot in there. Get rid of the Illusion of Chaos, and we will special summon our boy. And so now pretty straightforward here, I imagine. We'll get our search off of Thunder and Wind for Dark Element, and then we'll just go ahead and summon that Chaos Angel, because this is a light level 9 and this is a dark level 1, and that is 10, baby. So you have full power. Chaos Angel, we're not going to use it because we're not going to use it. There is no opponent. Dark Element, and of course, like I said, combined is the better one. Guardian's the reason we're here, and we'll just burn the element effect because we can get the one out of our deck. So that would be your turn 2, little bit of removal there. All right, I think that's enough tomfoolery for today. Thanks for checking out the video. If you test out the deck, definitely let me know how that goes in the comments, because it's a good time, but boy, it sure sucks a little bit. Everyone, happy holidays over the next couple of days here. Stay safe, have a good time. I'm guessing I won't be posting another video before then, so I'll just say right now, may all of your polls be blessed. I hope you get everything you ever wanted. Happy deck building. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Goodbye.